And what we do know with many functional disorders, like chronic pain, it gets worse when people are stressed out. They
Right.
know that. And
Right.
so, but the issue is they don't think in the other way. Well, if I gets worse when I'm stressed out, what if I start doing all these things about calming and optimism and co-regulation? What will happen to the chronic pain? What will happen to the inflammation?
Right.
And we can tie it all together because there are two things we do know from the neurophysiology. One is that the vagus acts as a anti-inflammatory uh, neural pathway, but we also know that oxytocin does as well.
Mm. Can you tell us a little bit about oxytocin and the wonderful way it is present in polyvagal theory?
It's interesting in polyvagal theory because this, of course, is really Sue's work, my brilliant wife's work on oxytocin. She discovered the link between oxytocin and social behavior. And about the year 2000, I started to, quote, deeply investigate its link to the autonomic nervous system and found out that the receptors were not, they were a lot in the afferent sensory part of the vagus and a lot in the dorsal vagus, in the nucleus in the brainstem that regulates the dorsal vagus, but very few in the ventral area. And I got confused. And then I
The
started to
ventral
realize
area, meaning
ventral vagus.
so the connection between the head and the face and the heart.
Yeah, yeah, very few, but basically it's much more in the dorsal, basically the nucleus, dorsal nucleus of the vagus, loaded with oxytocin receptors. And then I realized what it was about. It was about a lot because oxytocin is prominent in delivery, labor and delivery. And I
Mhm.
realized that during labor and delivery, there are certain physiological things didn't occur. You didn't have basically the woman didn't pass out. They tend not to have diarrhea or their gut. Basically, it keeps the physiology constrained. So oxytocin was really enabling the body to immobilize without fear.
Mm.
Now you're going to argue because you gave birth that the body still reacted during uh, the delivery process during parturition, but even other aspects of reproduction, other aspects of intimacy, even just being close to another person, the
Right.
body is immobilized without, which is a very unique experience, to be immobilized without fear. And actually, going back a couple of decades, Sue and I were giving a talk, actually, it's at the University of Michigan, and we
Mm.
were both on stage together. And I stepped behind her and I said, fall backwards. And she
Mm.
fell backwards. And I said, this is really the goal of civilization, is to enable people to feel safe enough to be immobilized without fear, which is literally to fall backwards into someone's arms.
Right. Right. And to trust that the person
And yeah,
will
trust
be
is,
there to catch you.
yeah. And this, what's interesting is, so like with oxytocin, which you brought up in there, is this real emphasis on love and oxytocin. I say that's fine to talk about that, but that to me isn't the main point. It's trust.
Well, there is a big relation between a real meaning of love and trust,
You
right?
already qualified it, my dear. You qualified it. And this is the real interesting part of the qualification of it. Uh, because what a lot of people say, I love that person, but I can't live with that person, or I don't trust that person. But we get confused. We get passion locked up with our sense of love. Now, that's wonderful that you have passion and love, but they're different. And what I'm trying to say, the roots of our biology is in trust.
Right.
And because uh, that's how we survive. That's the gift of our genetics that makes our species so wonderful, and that is that we can trust others and we can co-regulate.
Yeah. And how much trust and intimacy there is in the mother-child relationship,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
also in the partnership
yeah.
relationship.
Or the pet.
Or the pets. Yeah, 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 yeah. The pets too, which
So so when
sometimes it's a little
my
bit
cat
problematic.
yeah, when my cat goes on her back, with all her limbs spread out and just wants me to rub her belly,
You know,
which is a very ventral, vulnerable area for all mammals.
mhm,
And that, and welcomes it. You know that that is a state of very deep trust with me.
right. And how wonderful it is to experience that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Right.